how to make your green card, your citizenship application, N-400 application, stronger in 2025.
Indeed.
A lot has changed in 2025 on the N-400 application, and we're going to talk about these changes, and we're going to talk about when to file, when you shouldn't file, and how to make your application better and stronger. So there's multiple changes.
Yeah, I'll maybe rattle off a couple of them.
Yeah. Well, let's start by saying,
Sure.
There hasn't been any change in the law.
Correct. Change in policy only.
Okay, change in policy. But the change in policy is really extensive.
Yeah, the policy used to be sort of very liberal in favor of naturalization, and they're sort of saying, let's get rid of those liberal policies and let's sort of go to the hard metal as to what the law says, and we're going to do the sort of maximum amount of vetting we're allowed to do under the existing law for naturalization.
Yeah. So the big one for me is the option between deportation and approving naturalization. And let's explain this slowly so people understand, because it sounds like two extremes.
Well, yeah, it sounds really crazy for somebody who doesn't sort of understand, the world of immigration. So when you're a permanent resident of the United States, it's still possible for you to be removed from this country if you run afoul of our immigration laws that allow for deportation. But deportation is discretionary. It's optional. Just because you are capable of being deported doesn't mean you are deported. It requires them to open deportation and go through a process. Now, so it's possible you can be deportable, but also have the right amount of time on your permanent residence to apply for naturalization. So you come to USCIS and apply for naturalization, and they have sort of, two options. One is, well, I could naturalize this person, or it also appears they're deportable. And at the end of last year, I did a case for somebody. He had a defense that would have made him deportable, and basically they chose to naturalize him. The officer said, "It's we don't really care about that anymore. Happy guy, he's out there in the greater Columbus area. You're a citizen now." Yeah. And I'm glad that case got resolved, in end of 2024 and before 2025, because that person might have been, deported, filing their case right now.
And that person would not be subject to denaturalization, just to clarify, because all the information were on the table when the decision was made.
Yep.
Now, let's give a real life example, because people don't understand really the abstract.
Sure.
It's a perfect scenario is if somebody had a domestic violence offense 10 years ago. No, let's make it even more crazy. 25 years ago. Yeah. Domestic violence offense, and since has been a wonderful husband, reworked all the differences between his wife, and a stand-up citizen, done all kind of great things. He was a good father, a good husband, a good employer, a good neighbor.
That case I had for
paid his taxes.
Domestic violence. Yeah.
Paid his taxes, and done volunteer work, loved by everybody. Mm-hmm. He goes in for naturalization. He's not a U.S. citizen. Goes in for naturalization. This person is both naturalizable, and because of the offense 25 years ago, is deportable. Why? Potentially deportable.
Yeah.
Why? Because for naturalization, you only look back 5 years. And if your record is clean in the last 5 years, and you are a person of good moral character, you move forward. The laws on deportation looks indefinitely in the past into whether a person has committed a deportable offense. So as you go in, and until this administration, we were looking only 5 years. We were saying, okay, this happened 25 years ago. We're not going to worry about it. We're looking at the last 5 years. Are you a good guy for the last 5 years? Yes, you are. Here's your naturalization certificate. Congratulations. You are a naturalized U.S. citizen. Mm-hmm. This has changed this year. Now, you look at the entire history, and if you find something 25 years back that may give rise to a potential notice to appear for a judge to decide the deportability of the person, and if you have an opportunity to naturalize this person, you must issue the NTA by policy, by USCIS policy. So this is very important, not to run by yourself and file your NTA, your naturalization application, without having a clear understanding of your history. Yeah. Working on a case right now, Brian, wonderful young lady, had a religious marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, religious marriage. and walks in completely unassuming in the naturalization and asks her, are you married? And she said, yeah, I have a husband. Of course, think about the religious marriage. Back home, issue notice of intent to deny, advising her that when she came into the United States, she came as a child, which is an unmarried person, but now she declared she's married. Not only are we going to deny your naturalization, but we are going to potentially issue a notice to appear before deportation.
Because you engage in fraud or misrepresentation that you got your green card fraudulently, essentially.
You were not a child because you're married.
Yeah.
And now we have to prove that she was unmarried.
And we're literally chasing, legal opinions from halfway across the planet with a 30-day deadline on it, too.
Yeah, with a 30-day deadline on it, yeah. So this is a case that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
All right, so that is the first change, which is the history can go back, and we can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
We've burned half the time talking about this very important stuff. So things that can be opened up and discussed. We were talking about potentially is your employment history, your employment gap, leaving employer too quick. We do not know, but these are potentially grounds to challenge the green card one more time.
Yeah, basically, it's analogous to that scenario you described. If they go back in your immigration history and they find something where they believe you've been fraudulent, misleading, lying to the government, that can have the same sort of problem, for you.
It's relevant between the time the green card is approved and the time you show up for naturalization, what happened, because nobody's looked at that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that they can look at, and that's really important.
Well, yeah.
Good moral character.
Yeah, let's talk about good moral character. So the thing we maybe wanted to get to most today was talk about, what's the difference? What do they expect from you in a naturalization application now versus, say a year ago when they weren't sort of looking at this so intensely? And the requirement for naturalization has always been good moral character. But the way I explain it to people now is prior to this current administration, prior to just a couple months ago, they would take good moral character for granted as long as you didn't have to say yes to any of those nasty questions in the back half.
5 questions or 4 questions.
Yeah. Well, there's tons of them, but there's 5 critical
Big
ones.
ones,
It's
yeah.
crimes, taxes, are you taking care of your kids, things like that.
Allegiance.
Yeah. And now they're saying, well, we're not going to take your good moral character for granted. On every case, we are going to expect to see evidence that you are a person of good moral character and thereby meriting us approving your application for naturalization. And we thought maybe we talk sort of about how they look at these things now versus how they look at them, we're looking at them in the past.
So now they said we are going to take a holistic approach.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that means. A holistic approach, meaning that there's no checklist that we're going to use. We're going to just look at you holistically. We're going to go to your neighborhood. We're going to talk about, they did say, we're going to go around and ask your neighbor, does this guy cut his grass? Is this guy a good neighbor? They're going to go potentially to the employer, walk in and say, do you guys like this guy? Anything negative?
Is he the sort of person who we think, we're thinking of,
Yeah.
we're thinking about making them a U.S. citizen. What do you think?
Yeah. So we're talking about things that you can do to show good moral character and we're going to talk about what was before and what is now.
Yeah. So maybe we start with the letters of recommendation, just general character references, perhaps?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's a favorite one. And look, we have a little thing up here. So, historically, I would only include these things prior to this year if somebody had a real problem. And those problems are going to generally be criminal ones to show rehabilitation of character. And those might be letters from, friends, family, coworkers, acquaintances saying, I know Dave. Dave's a great guy. We see each other once a week, and I think he's the sort of person who should be a U.S. citizen. And basically, the recommendation and expectation now is you should be including those sort of reference and character letters on every case. Yeah.
Always, on every case.
Yeah.
So, community leader, an honest person, the words like an honesty, the words integrity, the words reliability has to be in the letter.
The sort of things that make the American flag wave in their favor, yes.
Yeah. Before you would bring those letters, and they'll say, okay, thank you very much, stick it in the file.
They don't care.
They'll stick it in the file and then they move on.
Yeah.
Now these are relevant.
Yeah.
Okay, what else we got?
We got community involvement and volunteering, civic participation. What do they expect there?
Yeah.
Again, prior to this, I want to emphasize what you just said. Yeah, thank you. I'll take that from you. Historically, generally, naturalization, they don't really, I always encourage people to go prepared to these interviews so they feel comfortable, but they don't really want it. They were generally willing to accept the premise that you're a person of good moral character as long as you don't have to disclose criminal stuff or back taxes or that sort of thing on the form. But, what does that documentation look like, Sam, that community
involvement? I think volunteering in church, with the rabbi, with the temple, food bank, volunteer letter, Red Cross.
Yeah, donate blood, donate money, church, temple, synagogue, mosque. Yeah.
So those are the good things, and now you should have those. Before, they really didn't care.
Yeah.
All right.
Next on our list is family and caregiving and showing personal responsibility.
Yeah. So this is a crazy one. Do you need a letter from your 7-year-old child? Dad is wonderful. He comes in, tell me a story every night.
No, but
help me out with
let's talk about children though. So one of the things I always sort of thought of as a bit of a sleeper issue for naturalization is they don't really ask about it on the forms, but if they think you're not taking care of your children, they can consider that evidence of poor moral character. I've helped some people in some real interesting cases on that stuff.
It's a big deal. It was a big deal before. Alimony, child support. It's a killer if you have not met that obligation.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of scenarios in which the couple separate and they're doing an informal taking care of the child. Okay, I'll just drop in some money.
And here's some evidence of the payments. But I had a real fun one, maybe about a year or two ago. It's a guy who basically, his wife, for lack of a better term, went bananas on him and tried to get him deported from this country. And he had advice of his lawyer. Then there was a alleged affair child that wasn't his, that but that child had his name. And on the advice of his criminal lawyer, that lawyer said, "Stay away from your ex-wife. She has it out for you. She has already reported you to the police wrongfully." Yeah. And that's one where there's a child out there. I had a child out there with this guy's last name. His response was, "I'm definitely not taking care of this child because one, it's not mine, and second, here's the history of it all." And that's one where, USCIS was happy to have it. That guy was very happy. Brian, you saved my butt on that. Worked with him for a long time.
So what other information of family support? I think it's just evidence that you've been paying into, even if there's no child support.
Yeah.
If there's a child out there and it's
you're handed mom, X amount of money. No court. You mean you're paying child support without a court order?
So yes, beyond that.
Yeah.
All right.
But I always try to bring if in this modern world, it's my favorite last sort of exhibit is some nice photos of the family. Here's this happy family that's going to be, Americans if you approve this case. Yeah. Employment history and financial stability.
Yeah, so before they didn't care about that as long as you paid your taxes.
Yeah.
Have you paid your taxes on time? Yes. Okay. And they check if there's any outstanding payments. That's a problem.
Sure.
If you arrange for payment, that's good. You've met the obligation before. Yeah. Now, I think you have to maybe bring your tax returns and bring evidence of payment.
Yeah.
Right?
Bring your bring the returns that generally show you're paying your taxes. Bring your W-2s.
Show that you have an income and show that you're employed, because being unemployed may be evidence of lack of good moral character.
Well, so here is the very common question, because I talk to people about this all the time. It's, well, Brian, I'm a housewife. I'm not employed. And, the answer that I have to give to anybody is, well, we can only give them the evidence that is available. You can't, make a job up out of nowhere. If you're living at home, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, that's perfectly fine. And I will say, this is sort of, again, a holistic view. They look at everything. Right. Just because you don't have a perfect presentation on one criteria doesn't necessarily mean you have a bad case. But
it's a holistic look. So if not everything applies.
Yeah.
All right, let's give us another one here.
Speaking of, we've sort of touched upon this a couple different ways, but tax compliance / financial integrity.
Yeah.
And
job,
basically show you pay your taxes. Now, here's another one that sort of gets...
Somebody with a bad credit report, you could probably bring a good credit report showing your credit is positive.
Yeah.
Bad credit report, that can be a negative information.
Yeah, we were discussing this in our office. Somebody gave us a credit report, and, it's the sort of thing where credit reports are long and...
intrusive.
That's my problem. I don't know if I want them asking, looking at every account. Oh, you got a loan for, $1,000. What was that for? Yeah. It's always a, This is a fun one. Like sort of same category. Well, educational achievement and self-improvement.
Yeah, so if you have gotten a new degree, college degree, you've done some accomplishment, you've did some, you bring those degrees. Before they didn't care about this. Now you have to do that.
Well, I like what can I say? I'm a lawyer. I got a JD. I like that, but I don't like that for that person. It's the same person as that the housewife who's not employed. It's I cannot meet that requirement. But you can still be a good person, a person of good moral character without education on your side there. Length of time in the United States.
The more you're staying in the U.S., the longer, obviously, the better, because there's a longer history.
Yeah, integration into the society of the United States.
But there's no requirement that you have to be for a long time. But if you're there for a long time, people say, well, I've been here for 25 years, didn't apply for citizenship. Is that going to be counted against me? I don't think so.
No.
No, but show that you can show 25 years of history of compliance.
Do you think that people are likely to be asked why did you wait 25 years? Because like when I talk to people for consults, I say people ask me that one all the time.
Yeah, they might. I mean, now it's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to give a positive answer. You have to say, I thought about it a lot of times, but I was busy with the family. Never done.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I talk to people about that, I say, well, what's your answer to that question? And it's usually I'm busy. We have three kids, and I just haven't really thought about it. And that's a perfectly fine answer. An honest answer, an honest answer doesn't get you in trouble for sure.
Yes. What else you got?
The last one we have on the list here is the personal statement.
So the personal statement is if there is history that needs to be overcome, or explained. Something happened. There is multiple speeding tickets, multiple. There's a DUI. DUI is a killer, by the way, for your green card within the last 5 years. Yeah. So that would be a bad example, but maybe other things.
Well, I'm going to just look at it another way. You can include a personal statement. Explain why you want to be a U.S. citizen. I'm really excited about this country. I like it. It's where my home is. It's a good way to sort of tie together everything. Essentially, is my take on it.
As we wrap up here, Brian.
Yes, sir.
We have mentioning, because we need to take some questions.
Yeah.
We have also we talked about civic. We haven't talked about the civic test. The civic test is another change.
Yeah.
The exams gotten tougher. And the questions are now longer questions, tougher questions, and more of them.
Yep.
So if you allocated a day and a half to prepare, you might want to allocate 2.5 days to prepare. Yeah. They're out there. You're going to be asked more questions, 12 of them.
12 of 20 must be right.
Yeah, 12 of 20 must be. So you're going to be asked 20 questions, and 12 of them are correct. That's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But 12 is not too bad. That's not too hard. But you got to be prepared, where before I think it was 10 and 6.
Yeah, the thing that worries me about that, I think the average person, like a lot of people in our audience are sort of employment-based immigrants. 99 times out of 100, they speak excellent English and have no problem learning that. The ones that I worry about, they're going to have more problem than that, are people with limited English skills. The ability to sort of memorize those questions, understand them, and answer them accurately.
And the grandma.
Yeah, the grandma. I've been to interviews with lots of grandmas. They're the fun ones, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's tough. When their English is right at the border, and then now they have to memorize these very complex issues.
Yeah.
So that's really the rundown. It's not impossible to do. It's a little bit more work.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do this by myself anymore. I think you need to get a lawyer involved, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's part of my conversation for the last couple of months, because it's only really implemented all these policies, the really kind of most interesting ones in April, is, it's more work than in the past. It's not the sort of thing, even though they still allow you to file your N-400 online, it's not really the thing you can just sort of sit down and do in an evening anymore. You really kind of have to think long and hard about it. Well, definitely a little bit longer and a little bit harder about it, for sure.
So we do have those questions that you can drop at immigrationquestions.us. It's a portal that we own, and that portal will...
Yeah, the button doesn't seem to be working, but I can do it manually over here in OBS Studio.
Okay, fantastic. So immigrationquestions.us, you can ask your questions in private, and we will keep you confidential instead of having it on your social media handle, whatever questions you ask. Yeah. So we encourage you to do that. You can do it during the YouTube session. You can drop them live on YouTube and we'll answer them, or you can do them during the week. So a couple questions that came up. The first one is somebody who asked us, please guide me regarding the removal of condition, type of evidence I have to submit on my marriage green card. So this is not...
Sorry, I haven't put these in yet.
Yeah. So these are not employment-based green cards. Somebody got married to a U.S. citizen, and then they will receive a conditional green card.
Temporary 2-year green card. Yeah.
In most cases.
Yeah.
And then 1 year, 9 months later, after the green card is issued, they must submit an application to remove condition.
I always describe that application as coming back to saying, hey, government, remember us? Remember how you made a smart decision on our green card application? Well, you're right to do it because we're still here, we're still married, we're still happy.
Now,
give me a permanent green card.
Timeline, Brian, are they giving 2 or 4 years?
They're giving, so I'll explain what that means. So when you file your removal of conditions, you do it in the 90 days before your green card expires. And what about my green card? They will send you a receipt notice for the case. And the ones I've seen recently have been for 48 months, a 48-month extension of your green card.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Processing times, I think, are actually posted around 2 years still, but it's still an awfully long time for removal conditions.
Well, they like to string it out because they want to test that marriage for double the time the law allows.
Yeah.
So they will give you more time, 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And then they will, within a couple, 2 to 3 years, possibly call you for an interview. Now there's no interview waiver. So they're probably going to feel 100% interview unless the law changes. And you're going to submit, when you file this removal condition, you're going to submit evidence of commingling of life.
Yeah.
Similar to the naturalization, honestly, but a little bit different. You're going to show them pictures together, vacations together, bank account with history of money. Same stuff you submitted during the family original application, Brian. Insurance card, you know, a car, a house, a child.
Evidence that you're living your life together, and there you go.
Letters from friends and family.
And if you can essentially prove that you've been living your life together for, you know, well over 2 years at this point, they should approve, you know, that. Yeah.
And then they are going now, unfortunately, to call you for an interview.
Yeah, I'm going to an interview at the end of this month here in town. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then they will just ask you a question, go through the paperwork, and issue the green card application immediately. Now, Brian, we should mention that within the 3rd year, or 2 years and 9 months after the conditional residency approval, one can file for naturalization.
Yeah, relevant immigration questions.us question, and I made a sneak in here. What are the rules for applying for N-400 naturalization while the I-751 is pending?
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So bottom line is you, right before those 2 years up of conditional permanent residence, you file for removal conditions. And you're so happy you get that receipt notice in the mail that says your green card is extended for, you know, 48 months right now, maybe less, maybe more in the future, while it's pending. And while this case is pending, the long pending removal conditions, about 2 years process time right now, you're still a permanent resident. And when you reach, you know, 3 years of permanent residence, less than 90 days, you can apply for citizenship as a spouse of a United States citizen who's residing with them. And that's what you do. You can basically... The hack, for lack of a better word, is to speed up the removal of conditions process by filing an N-400. Those cases get sort of wrapped together, and they bring you in for a dual interview that covers the removal of conditions and the N-400. They adjudicate both at once. Congratulations, you're a U.S. citizen.
Yeah. After being sworn in.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. So they have an interesting one. Do you have? So I have this one on somebody asking me about. Ask us about, can you file a concurrent and self-employment H-1B for an H-1B exempt case?
So, put it up.
So this person works for a nonprofit.
Yep.
And she works on H-1B. She's on H-1B visa.
And her organization is a capped exempt organization that basically doesn't have to, their employees don't have to be selected in the lottery, right? You often related to schools. So basically those schools can take people out of their academic, academic pipeline into an employment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that person wants to open, that person is highly educated, sophisticated, has a skill and a license, and wants to open a shop on the side.
Sure.
And she asked, can I do a an exempt, concurrent, self-employed H-1B.
Well,
So what are the rules on self-employed H-1B, Brian?
well, there are rules on self-employed H-1B, which there weren't really in the past. There was a sort of an illusion that it might be possible, but they, it was in January of this year, finally implemented those rules. And it provides that generally you can have an ownership interest in an H-1B employer, and that's that. You'll get shortened approval periods. Because we're sort of, I think it's maybe the first 2 times you get a shortened 18-month approval period, and that's that.
But you have to also, there's site visitation, you have to show that you can own at least 51% of the business, and that's,
Yeah, I think the thing that would worry me about that scenario is not about, is it lawful once that I'm doing it, is did you do it lawfully to get there? Are you working outside of your H-1B to start up that business essentially would be the thing I would want to be very careful with, and that's probably why you hire an attorney to help you. You hire a business partner or somebody to do the business aspects of it.
You put a business plan together, and you apply for the H-1B, create the limited liability company, and the question is, it's kind of a chicken and an egg at this point. You have to show there is work without really getting work. So what do? Maybe you need to bring a partner who is 49% owner, who is a U.S. citizen, that can just jumpstart the business a little bit.
Yeah,
and then you buy into it.
It's worth mentioning, maybe this is something maybe we're going to talk about at another time, but the government sometimes puts out regulatory agendas. Here are the things that we want to regulate on in the future, sort of give notice to the public even before they put out a proposed rule. And one of the things on the list of this administration is, changing the H-1B program again. And I ponder whether or not that self-employment rule for H-1B will
disappear.
Disappear. There's also all sorts of things that are allegedly on the agenda. And well, it'll be interesting to see if those things manifest, because things have been on the agenda for a long time and never go anywhere too. That's a possibility.
The next one we have, Brian, here, it's a great question. Do you believe in the current environment, if I lose my job, is it advisable to file for a change of status to B visa? And what other options are available?
So look at me, I'm multitasking. Got to put it up on the screen there. So I would say this is probably one of the most common, consultations that I get right now. It's either I'm thinking my company is floundering on me, I have already lost my job, I have a 60-day grace period, what can I do? And the answer is, I'm always going to prefer, like a dependent status, like, if you're eligible, if your spouse is on H or L, get to H4 or L2. But basically, what are your other options aside from B? My answer is going to be F, possibly. Granted, their scrutiny on F is,
massive, right
increased. And basically, B, F and B are really kind of the only sort of classically available visa classifications. I mean, that I've had a conversation to work. Is it possible for me to shoot out a national interest waiver case in 60 days, or an EB-5 case in 60 days? Those things, aren't really possible. And then,
and then with visa availability, priority date.
Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody like as recently as Thursday or Friday, so it's it's fresh in my head. Yeah. But one of the things is there's a policy on the USCIS website for a while that said, if you lose your job on H-1B, go beyond the grace period, change to B. Change to B. As soon as you hang out while the B case is pending, look for a job.
That was a million years ago.
And one administration ago. But the answer is, you're allowed to be in the United States on B status, looking for a job. It's a permitted activity for the time being. And basically, if you had no other option and you're looking to stay in the United States, or at least want some time to wrap up your affairs, because 60 days is not a lot of time, that's an option. And basically, you can't really go wrong with an honest case. So, if you have a 60-day grace period for H-1B, right, I'm going to spend that time looking for a job. And if you want to change to B and say, you know what, I'm going to spend my time wrapping things up and looking for a job, if one of those things manifests, well, Whatever way I go, that's that. You know.
Yeah. Good answer. All right. So that takes us to our half-an-hour mark. Thank you guys for listening to us. With the government shutdown and everything that's going on, we are going to once a week now for half an hour every Monday.
Yeah.
At 6 o'clock, and then if things pick up again or there's going to be some changes, we will probably bring it back